Welcome to the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast, where you get straightforward, no-nonsense ideas on leadership and growth, both personally and professionally. It's brought to you by the Chief Coaching Officer of the Peak Performance Group. He's also a brilliant and successful serial entrepreneur. He's a two-time author. He's a certified executive coach. He's a sales genius. He's bald.
Hey now.
And he's your host of the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast. Buckle your chin strap. Here's your host, Coach Rick Colster.
Hey. Welcome to the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast. Today, our guest is one of the country's top relationship coaches and matchmakers. She's over 20 years recruiting and coaching and spent time working with one of the absolute best self-help guru in the world, Tony Robbins. She also spent 8 years with Deepak Chopra on his leadership team. So I got to tell you, she's got the chops to prove it. She's also worked with some of the top names in personal development, and I'll let her tell you more about that. She says she helps people embrace the dating journey. And for the single folks that are listening, it's a heck of a journey. Today, we welcome my friend, Traci Porterfield, to the Bald Truth. Traci, welcome to the Bald Truth. Hey there.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so much fun. It's so great. The dating coach is kind of like, and hope you don't get mad at me, Hitch. That movie Hitch with, yeah. You tell us what we got to do. So I'm no longer single. I was single for a long time, but I'm married now. But
I know.
I got to tell you, I knew the pain growing up. So how did you get started doing that? Let's jump right in. How the heck did you get started doing this?
You know, where to start? I, as you mentioned, worked for Tony Robbins. I was a VP for him for 4.5 years. When you're in that world, you are constantly asking yourself, what am I passionate about? What do I want my life to look like? Your life is your responsibility. And so when you're in that environment and you're around those people, you are constantly asking yourself that question. When I was there, I actually went through a divorce and back out in the dating world. And after being married, I was married 8.5 years, you step into the space, you're like, well, what the heck am I doing? And I'm an extrovert. I'm a recruiter. I've been a recruiter my entire life. I meet people for a living. And I just thought, I'm just going to get a boyfriend. It didn't work like that. So I learned a lot of lessons along the way. And having Tony as a mentor and Deepak for 8.5 years as a mentor, I learned a lot in that dating space. And it's taking a chance, right? You start your own business. And I just told myself, like, what's the worst that can happen? You suck, you're not successful, then you can go back to corporate America and get another job. So it's about taking that chance.
I love that. So you're an entrepreneur. You took that chance, like many of our listeners have, to start their own businesses, start their own, chart their paths themselves. And I love you said it's about passion. I like the word purpose, but passion and purpose tied together. That's where I really think we need to do. So what was your journey getting to be an entrepreneur? What was that like, leaving corporate America and starting your own gig?
It's not for the faint of heart, as you know. And, I was, as a VP, you have a team around you, you have people to do all the things that you're not good at. And as now you're going into the entrepreneur world and you're like, what, I'm IT, I'm my own assistant. Most people start out by themselves and you fumble and bumble around. It just is the nature of it. And when you can say, okay, well, I'll figure that out. And you just know what your strengths and what your weaknesses are and get the help or get the knowledge in some way. But if there was no way in hell I was going back into corporate America. So if you have that, and it was hard, it's hard. You have to have the grit. And I believe you have to have the network to support you and who is around you. I mean, you know this, and we've talked about this, where you and I are both obsessed with personal development. What is the world who's surrounding you? And when I was on the Tony's executive team, there was 8 of us. And I remember many times sitting in that room being like, I'm the dumbest person in this room. that's okay. Like, that's what you want to be, right? If you're the smartest person in the
Oh
room,
yeah,
maybe like get a new room, right? Like,
get a new room.
yeah. So I think just that the starting the entrepreneur world, to know what you really are passionate about. So because of my experiences, because of my hardships, because of my divorce and back out in the dating world, and then I was in one other relationship that was super hard to get out of, and I did, and then you're back here again, and you learn a lot if you can take those hardships and learn it and say, okay, what did I learn and what am I going to do with this? And I personally feel like I've been given these amazing mentors and it's my responsibility to share what I know with others. And so I have two businesses, actually. Love by Design is my matchmaking business. Recruit by Design is my HR consulting company, because I've been a recruiter. Basically, it's like, I can recruit. Do you want a job or do you want a date? And that's what I recruit for.
See,
So
I love that, because you get to do so many things, number one, but also that journey into that entrepreneurial world. I mean, I started 17 years ago. We started the Peak Performance Group 17 years ago, basically because I got fired. You know, I basically told my boss what I really thought of him. Not many people really do that. I told him what I really thought, and he didn't really appreciate it quite so much, didn't take it well. So maybe we need to work on his personal development.
but if you trust that path, though, right? Like, you're speaking up, and my personal belief is that things will unfold, but you have to, what I say a lot is be scared and do it anyway. I think in both of my businesses and in the entrepreneur journey, it is scary when you're stepping into something you don't know, and you learn it. And those steps, whether it's getting out of a relationship or whether it's starting a business or whether it's hiring a team, it's all hard until it's not. Yeah, it's hard until it's easy, right? And to say, okay, it's hard, that doesn't mean quit. It just means it's hard. But if it's hard and you think it's purposeful, for me, when two people find each other, when I can say, like, I introduced them, like when I went to the marriage of my very first client, when I went to his wedding and he hugged me and said, I owe this all to you. I was like, that's what drives me. When I see that something that I did helped somebody else, then that's what drives me. And it can be in business or it can be in dating, but it's both, and you see the result. You're a coach too. It's the same thing. I think when you see people, for me, the light come on and they have an aha about how they can have a better life, or the choices that they've made in the past, or what they believe, their old story, what is your new story going to be? Sure. And that starting a business and being an entrepreneur, again, is not for the faint of heart. So you got to find what really drives you, because this is a lot of room. I love
that, because it's the intersection of that passion, that purpose, that creates that joy. And I feel the same way. I mean, I run a program, major program is called the Emerging Leaders Academy. We basically take young leaders and develop them over a 3-year period into mature leaders. Had a call the other day with one of my former, I call them students, but young man who started off, 6-7 years ago when we started the program. He was one of our first test cases, let's say. And he went from frontline worker to now he runs his office. He's also been promoted, or he's been asked to be the chairman of the board for the allied board for his industry association, because all of this gave him that visibility.
Yeah.
So he was able to do it. And I just went, yes. You know, he got married and all that stuff. And I didn't have anything to do with him getting married. I am not a matchmaker by any stretch of the imagination. But you see that, you go, wow, he got married. He's happy. He's now running his office that his boss groomed him for. He put him in our program for that. And that's what gives me my juice. That's what gets me juiced up. And it's that feeling of you help someone else. Mm-hmm. And I think it's truly a servant leadership mindset, where how can I serve you as an individual, as your leader? So mm-hmm. Let's talk about leadership. You know, that's all a part of business and recruiting and dating. I mean, it's just literally putting the right people together. I'm pretty simple. But it's also leadership. You know, how do you become that leader? And I believe in servant leadership. So what's your take? Let's talk about leadership. What's your take on good leaders? What makes a good leader?
I think, when I think about Tony and working for him, they have the vision. Or anybody, if you're the leader of your own company, or if you think back on the people in your life that have been really good leaders, they have that vision. They have that way to get people excited and get on the bus. I mean, Tony had us read books all the time, homework assignments turned in, like it was in addition to a big job, it was also, he had us constantly learning. And at times when you thought like, oh my gosh, I don't even have enough time to do all this. I'm doing this, but he was pushing you. So the person that has vision and is pushing you to grow, whether you like it or not, that person is looking out for your best interest, and they're helping elevate you. And I think about the times that Tony pushed me personally, and he used to say to me, Traci, what do you think? Because I didn't speak up a lot. I was around a lot of people that had to speak or that wanted to speak, and I am not the kind of person that, like, I don't have to talk just to talk. And he would push me in that way. And then even the books, and you're constantly having to read and evaluate, and you're evaluating your team, and you're evaluating the state of the business, and you're evaluating yourself. And I think when you have a leader that has vision and they help you grow, they're committed to helping you grow, your team grow, the company behind the vision, everybody's united, and there's power in that collective. And communication has to be there. That's in dating, that's in business, that's in everything. But the leader has to be that person that sets the stage for communicating and speaking the truth, and well, the bold truth, right? Here we are. Let's speak the truth. And I think that's super important.
So that's so great, because being truthful, being straightforward, communication, one of the things I've always found, and I continue to find it, any business that I work with, we're going, whether it's strategic planning, whether it's development, whether it's giving them direction, working with their people, whatever it is, working with, the tools, processes, etc. It's always about communication. It comes down to bottom line. I think it's about communication, as are relationships about communication. I mean, think of some of the times in relationships where you thought you were communicating, but you really weren't.
You weren't.
And
yes, you're not.
I think that's going to be a critical piece for leaders to learn, is how can you communicate more effectively? So.
And I'm going to tell you something that's may sound a little funny, but I had every business that I worked with Recruit by Design, and Deepak was one of them. I have them take the 5 love languages, and that is typically for relationships. I don't know if you have taken it before?
Oh yeah, I love the 5 love languages.
And
matter of fact, I know mine.
See, and you should. And it's a matter of, and I tell people it's not just because a lot of times men will go, yeah, mine's physical touch. I'm like, yes, but what is the number? Like, what is your secondary? Like, how powerful is it? And I think that even in businesses, knowing what the love language is, first your own, and then your employees. So then you can show them appreciation, respect, whatever, in the language that they hear it. It's not just for relationships. It's saved relationships before. I've taught it to groups before, and I had a couple that one year they were almost in the place of getting a divorce. But they looked at their numbers, and we talked about it, and she worked on it because he was really high in quality time and she was low. And she was like, okay, I have to make that important. She totally did. The next year when they came back, it was a shift from a business perspective too. The funny part about physical touch in the business perspective is I come from a touchy-feely environment. Deepak, Tony, everybody's hugging and all of that. Like I'm that kind of person, so I fit nicely in there. If there's a person that does not like that, you have to know it. And that's not the person you go hug every day because they don't like it. Or a biggie is if they are words of affirmation. If you have an assistant, my old assistant was words of affirmation, all I had to do, and it's free, all I had to do was make sure I told her how I felt and what I appreciated about her. And she was so filled up. So, but you have to know it. You have to know yourself, and you have to know your employees, and you have to know your significant other, people you're dating, so you can speak the same language.
Right. So I get the relationship piece. I get it. You got to know your wife, your girlfriend, or in my case, my wife, but whoever your significant other, right? You got to know their love language if they want physical touch. And that's not intimacy as much as it is. It may be just sitting there and putting your hand on their knee, just so you have that. I'm the same way. I'm a hugger. So, but I also use behavioral science as well in our business, DISC and motivators, et cetera.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yep.
our high I's, one of the fun things I always do when I teach those classes is I'm a pretty high D, high I, and they're so high that they're both at 100, depending upon the day, 99 or 100, boom, boom, bouncing off the roof.
That's Tony also,
S,
right? Tony's 100
what's
D,
that?
100 I. Tony's 100 D, 100 I.
Yeah. And I'm like, my S and my C are so low, I don't know what they are. I really don't give a crap. That's how low they are.
Right. Low C's the rules don't apply to them. That's right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So, but what I find is I always bring up someone, because I always do an assessment of the group. I had a group of like 60 engineering firm, so go figure.
Yeah.
But it was sales and engineering, they sold the product. So I brought up one of their leaders who was a high C, and had him stand in front of me. And I did this, took a step forward, and literally he went way out. I just started taking a step forward. He took this big, huge step back, like, oh no, I need arm's length. Give me that distance, big boy. Now I am big. I'm 6'4", so I do show an imposing figure, but they don't want that. But on the other side, I got someone who's a high I. They were like, hey, give me a hug. This is cool. We had fun. Knowing that in the business realm, though, I said all that to say this. Knowing that in the business world, it's great relationships, significant others, but in the business world, we've got to be careful there. You can't anymore, you can't touch anybody anymore. We've seen too many examples of too many touchy people being too touchy or being too overt, straightforward. We talk about, what we see in public figures, if they're straightforward, no nonsense, they get vilified.
Mm-hmm.
If they're too touchy, they get vilified.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a carefully crafted, you got to walk the line there. How can somebody walk that line knowing love languages and not overstepping those bounds and hurting or insulting people?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one, and that's a great question. And I do think that the first step is knowing what they are, and that from quality time, do you need to regularly meet with them? Some people need it more and some people don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the physical touch, if they're like, it was a numerical score, if they're like a 3, then like that's just a no, just meet them where they are. But if they're, again, I came from a touchy-feely environment, so that particular situation hasn't come up, but I think that it's our responsibility to know ourselves and read the energy of the other person as well. So a lot of people just bring themselves instead of reading the energy of the other person as well, because you need to match that. That's
great info. So what you're saying is, for leaders that are listening and watching today, is don't just know who you are, know who your people are.
Mm-hmm.
Really dig in. And if it takes getting an assessment, we do assessments at the Peak Performance Group. If you want to know more about the 5 love languages, I am not the expert. Traci will be the expert. She'll give you some information on how you can understand that in the business world as well. And you'll see her information. We'll get her information to everybody out there today. So
I am a fan. Can I touch on this one more second? Because I'm a huge fan of assessments. And I think anybody in the business world, whatever assessment they use, I mean, I love the Gallup Strengths Finders. I think the Myers-Briggs and the 16 personalities are amazing. Like, you just have to look at yourself and look at your team and make sure that you're balanced. Because if you have a whole bunch of people that are the influencers, what do you need? You need some strategy, or you need some, like, each one, know your team. But people tend to hire people that are like themselves. And then you have this team of people that are weak, all in the same area, because you hire people that you like, that are like you. And you have to say, like, what am I? Who am I? What do I hate to do? I'm not a super detail oriented person. I don't want like all the minutia. I need someone around me that digs in and like loves it. And they come back with spreadsheets and like do all that. I hate it, but you need it. So don't hire like you, hire what you need, and then understand each other. Because if you don't understand each other, you're going to get on each other's nerves.
Well,
So
that leads me to an interesting topic, because one of the things that I've found, and self-reflection is always one of those things we do in personal development. It says, when you worked for Tony, was look inside. Who are you? What are you? Who's your purpose? What's your passion? And you dig inside. When I started working for Fox Sports back, 30 some odd years ago, I was a young man then, and I didn't know any better. I had just come out of running restaurants for 13 years, and I didn't know any better. I just hired whoever walked in the front door. If you can bartend, or you can be a waitress or a cook, and you've been there before, it's easy. I started hiring in my own image. I realized I hired white, male, 30, 40, which is my demographic. I was probably 32, 33. That demographic that were athletic, liked sports, drank beer, and the like, right? Did all the things I liked. So I hired. Literally, I hired a guy one time. We made a bet on the phone. For a football game, because I worked for Fox Sports, so we're talking about sports all the time. So I'm coming from Dallas to Denver, and we made a bet on the Denver Dallas game or something. Whoever loses got to bet the other a 6-pack. That's a great interview technique, by the way. You got to try that one. So ultimately, he showed up and he lost, and he showed up for the interview with a 6-pack of Coors Light. Good man of his word. So I told me he's a man of his word. And I went, okay, you're good. And I hired him. He's still a dear friend. That's 30 years ago.
and he brought you Coors Light.
But he was, well, yeah, that's what I drank at the time. So he said, but the realize is he was a year or two older than me, white, married, met all my same demographics. And I started seeing this and saying, there's a lot of Ricks running around out here. A lot in my business sense, right? So we need to be diverse. So I really made an effort to hire women, look for women that like sports, look for other people that like sports. And we made a more diverse sales force, but it was kind of eerie when I started realizing it, because I started, with Tony and personal development back in the late 80s. That was what got me on this journey. I became a personal development junkie. Let's say I read them all, listened to them all of that. So thinking about that, so you've worked with some of the top names in personal development.
Yeah.
So tell me this, and you've worked in numerous roles. I'm afraid to ask, but who's your favorite? And what are some of the interesting stories? I know I'm putting you on the spot, and if you don't want to, that's cool. But was there somebody who just really made a huge impact on your life? How about that?
Well, here's what I'll say. Absolutely, the trajectory of my personal life was changed by Tony. So, I learned from all perspectives, from starting my own business to realizing my old stories and my old habits and what didn't serve me, and letting go of that, and being learning how to step into the unknown, and learning how to be like, I didn't know what to get divorced. Like I'm gonna have a big mortgage and I'm gonna be a single mom, and like I don't know how to do any of that. It's that he embodies empowering you to create any kind of life you want. And so I completely attribute most of my learnings in that space to him. With Deepak, what I will say though with Deepak, because I think this is important for everybody, a lot of entrepreneurs will probably be familiar with Tony because he's a get shit done, and make it happen, and you can do it. Deepak, when I got there, the importance of meditation and listening to your inner knowing and quieting the crazy, because I had a lot of crazy in me working for Tony and I did not know I had it, and quieting that and listening and being still. And there's so much value in that too. So I think from both perspectives, like have the empowering and then have the spirituality in whatever way it is to you. Have both of those to be balanced.
That's it. I think it's life balance. Yeah, I think life balance is what it is. I've actually started thinking of it. Balancing isn't that easy. And I don't think we ever really create a true balance, but I think what we create is a rhythm. It's more a rhythm than a balance. Like I work at from a standing desk. I'm sitting here talking to you from a stand-up desk. If I was to stand on one leg the whole time, I'd be all over the place, moving, but I've got 2 feet down, but I've got a rhythm, a little rock and a rhythm where I'm going to be. So once you find that rhythm, I think that's really where you can find that balance in your life. And you're absolutely right. You got
an awareness. I think people need an awareness to check in with yourself and know like what's important and how are you, what pieces of your life are, the wheel, right? And where are you off balance? But until you actually check in with yourself, like, how am I doing? For both dating and recruiting, I do one thing they're very similar in a lot of ways for recruiting for business and dating, is I have everybody identify their top 5 critical criteria. So what are your top 5 critical criteria in dating? What are you looking for in your life partner? And then if you are hiring at all levels, excuse me, what are the top 5 things? Excuse me. And I think when you focus, like, first get the clarity on what you need on both sides, and then hone in on that, and then evaluate. So you have to keep evaluating all pieces of your life. And until
isn't that hard, Tracy? I mean, think about that. Isn't that hard to do? I mean, who wants to look at themselves in the mirror? I mean, I want to look in the mirror and I want to see Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I don't. I'm a little bummed out. But I mean, internally, so emotionally now, we want to look at ourselves and go, look at me. I am emotionally acceptable. I am emotionally available. I am there. And we're not. We're a chocolate mess.
Yeah. It's about your truth, right? It's about your truth and picking, like, how am I as a parent? How am I as a boss? How am I as in a relationship? How am I in my work?
All of those. I'm great.
Like, you have to look at all of them and be truthful. And if you're not truthful with yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. And I say, put some people around you that will be honest with you, because a lot of people can lie to themselves. And so if you have a network of people that you totally say, like, okay, I'm going to call you out and you call me out. And, when we're not living in that space, or that we call each other out. And I have some really amazing girlfriends that I do that with, and have someone call you out. And
think about that. For the folks that are listening, do they have an accountability partner? And you're absolutely right. I mean, knowing people, having coached for 17 years, thousands of execs, right? A lot of people go, I'm good. I'm okay. Yeah, no worries here. I'm good. And then you dig in a little bit, you start peeling back the proverbial onion, the layers of an onion, till you get to the heart of the matter, that really sweet spot of that matter right there, right in the heart. That's where the issues lie. But we put on a lot of armor.
And so
men especially.
They do. And I have so many thoughts on this. If I am talking to my clients in Recruit by Design, in Love by Design, my matchmaking company, or the males are my clients, and the women can be in the database for free. They're candidates. But when I talk to a potential new client, it's all referral based. If they say, oh, I don't need the coaching part. I'm like, you do, but okay. Everybody should be open to coaching no matter what. Like, everybody. That is how we advance in life. That's how we get better in the business world too. I'm a fan of 360-degree reviews in some capacity, whether it's like an impromptu one or not.
Sure.
And that you have to say, am I open to this coaching? And I remember very specifically when I was at Tony Robbins, someone in my team said to me, the feedback came back to me, when they're in a meeting with me, that I'm not listening, I'm doing something else at the same time. And that, like, hurt their feelings. And I was like, oh yeah, I do that, because I had so much going on, and I would be like doing something and also listening and answering. And in my mind, that was okay, because I was giving them my time. And in their mind, like, it's not okay. And so I have to be able to say, you know what, it's not about me. It's about them. This is their time. And this is another relationship. It's all relationships. It's business relationships. It's dating relationships. And you co-create them. And when you're co-creating them, you absolutely need to ask yourself, with every challenge you have, what part of this do I own? Because it's co-created. And when you can ask yourself, what part of this do I own? Past relationships, failures, jobs, employees, and you're honest with yourself, and you can find that, you can fix it. You can make it better next time. But until you ask yourself that question truthfully and find that nugget, you're not going to get where you want to get. Or you can get there, but it'll be slow.
But I think you nailed it. It's absolutely, we have to look as leaders and say, okay, it's not me, not my needs, it's your needs. Who am I leading and what can I do to help you with your needs? Whatever it might be 5 minutes of my time. It might be a big project you need help with. It might be an issue you're working on, whatever it might be. How do I focus that and to take that flip away from, I need you to do this, to say, okay, how can I help you? That's, you nailed it. It's not about the leader. It's about the people they're leading.
Gary Ridge is the CEO of WD-40, and he used to say, probably still says, it's not my job to, as the leader, it's not my job to grade their paper. It's my job to help them get an A. And I think that is so clear. And if you can adopt that kind of model, like you hired that person. And as a person that helps the entrepreneurs hire superstar team, once you hire them, take your time hiring them and find the right person. But once you hire them, you own it. You own it, helping them to succeed. Now, I also believe in firing fast. If it's just a wrong fit, like don't like drag it out. Sure. But you take your time and hire, and then the leaders own making those people successful. So that is a mindset shift, I think, that is a biggie. Help them get an A. It's your job to help them get an A.
Absolutely. And I use the term servant leadership. How do you serve those? That's it. So, all right. So you haven't gotten to where you are now. Successful dating coach, relationship coach, successful HR recruiting professional. So without some, we probably got kicked in the shins, fell down the stairs, these proverbial things, of course. So what do you think, what kind of defeats have you had and how'd you get past them? You know, as an entrepreneur, what kind of things kicked you in the shins?
Oh, what a great question. That's where you get the most learnings, right? When you're like, oh my gosh.
How did you get past the question? I want to maybe what's your worst defeat? How'd you get past it?
I think, first of all, allowing yourself to feel the disappointment, the anger, the whatever, like when you stuff your emotions, it's going to come out later. You're going to get sick, or it's going to come out somewhere else that it shouldn't come out. So I think allow yourself to feel that truly disappointment, whatever it is, and then analyze and go, okay, like what did I do? How can I not do that again? How do I not do that again? And it's failure is such an important part of success. And I think you need to embrace Sarah Blakely from Spanx. I remember her dad used to say at the dinner table to them growing up every night, what did you fail at today? And they got in trouble if they didn't say what they failed at that day, because it meant you weren't trying. And I was just like, I love that. Like, you should be failing when you can be like, I wasn't that kid. I was always the one, I'm not raising my hand unless I'm for sure I know the answer. That is not helpful. It's not helpful to who you're going to be. So the failures, fail, and then like fail, feel, and then analyze and move forward. But you have to let it go and just be like, okay, what did I learn there? They're all lessons.
Yeah, I think it's mindset. And I think you hit it. It's how you think about it. How do you approach it? And the mindset of it is, what's the mindset of how am I going to approach this? And that's one of the big things I'm working on right now, is keeping the right mindset. Even though, look, we've been locked up for almost a year. Was it 10 years now? I don't know. Feels like forever with this pandemic and all this is going on. So what mindset are you going to embrace? Right. You're going to get out of here. I mean, look, we've all survived every challenge so far that we've faced in our lives. We're here. We've lived through it. Okay, what mindset are you going to take to do that? Are you going to go, oh, it's me? You're going to go suck it up and just move forward. You know, yeah. I heard a guy, he said, Navy SEAL, he's out running. He says, your mouth is dry, lick your lips, keep running. And that's what it was. It's like, so what?
I wish I had it in here. It's in my other room. I have a so what bucket, like literally a so what bucket. It's red and it's got so what on the middle. And I've done that with my son growing up. It's like a lot of things need to go in that so what bucket. Like,
The
okay,
so what bucket. I
so
love that.
I know, usually I keep it right here and I put it in the other room. But it really, like, I use it a lot for the dating world, right? People, it's so emotional and it's so personal, and it's really looking at yourself very vulnerable when you're in the dating world.
Oh
And
yeah.
and when you don't hear back from somebody, or you thought you had a great connection and you didn't, or whatever, it's like, you got to put it in the so what bucket. You got to put it in the so what bucket, and then just like move on, because mantras, mindset, whatever it is that helps you get there, you have to catch that phrase, whatever it is, and replace it with something better. And so I use what's next is better a lot. I actually have 10 of my favorite dating mantras, if you, not for you, because you're happily married, but I have 10 of my favorite dating mantras if anybody wants them. But it is the mindset. Like, it is the mindset. So have some phrases, catch yourself when things are going awry, and don't stay there, right? We all have that, but you don't have to stay there.
Good. So okay, so you opened the door here. So you're talking about, you have some dating mantras that people might want to get. So is there anything else you want to promote for yourself? How can people get in touch with you?
My website's traciporterfield.com. I do a lot on LinkedIn. Anybody's feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. That's my main platform. I'm on the others. So that's probably
Okay.
about the way.
Well,
I have
down below, folks, down
I
below,
have
you watch traciporterfield.com. You can contact her. Anything coming up? Any big events? Something you want to promote?
No, I don't have any big events. I have I'll help entrepreneurs hire. So if there's any entrepreneurs that want to bring somebody on their team, that is something I love to do. Entrepreneurs, typically, they don't have HR teams, but they want a kick-ass team. That is who I typically work with. And then anybody that's looking for love, that again, what I said before, the men are my clients. And then I have thousands and thousands of connections. I mean, life is about connections, and it's about quality connections. And I think that whether you're making that connection in the dating world, or whether you're making that connection in the business world, or you're with your own team, take the time to actually develop a real connection with somebody.
Perfect. Perfect. So I know we're close on time here. I want to make sure we're clear, but there's one thing I always have to get in. I always ask the Coach Rick's bald truth question, because we've talked a lot about you. I really want to get to know you, and I want our listeners and viewers to get to know you. So I have 3 questions that I'm going to throw at you, kind of my Coach Rick's curveball, but I call them the bald truth questions. So here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
You're sitting down. I know that.
No, I'm sitting.
So here it is. You're holding a dinner party, and you get to invite 5 people. All right, 5 people is all you get to invite, dinner party. Here it is. You can invite anyone in all of history, alive or dead. Who do you invite and why?
Okay. I am very much about love and connection. I am obsessed with Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton. And
okay.
I think I admire people that are like, they are a perfect example, in my opinion, of people that have been through hardship. They were both in bad relationships. They went through very public divorces, and then they come together through difficult situations. I love that. I love seeing people. I think they're an example. I love people that are shining examples in the world of what I like to see. I think when you're
cool.
walking,
There's 2.
I would invite those 2. To the flip side, I would love to invite Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan, because I think there's another example of how does one person who's a successful actor, successful in politics. I mean, we look at the world as it is right now, just kind of a hot mess, and say, like, how did this person, what made them so successful, both in relationships and respect to the world? I love that. I love both sides of the respect that he was for dating and his career. And of course, you need a moderator of some sort, someone that's going to like poke and do all that. So I would invite Tony Robbins. I would invite him, and he can be there, like, you know.
Okay, excellent. Very cool. Fun stuff.
Yeah,
all right, an article. Second question. Articles being written about you after you pass. We all have an expiration date. We don't like to think about it. We don't know when it is, but after you're gone, an article's being written about you. What is the title, Traci? The headline.
The title, that's a tricky one. My mantra has been, it's actually on my license plate, love wins. And I think that maybe it's love wins in this life and the next. I think when we choose love, whether it's in dating, whether it's even if you're going on a date and the person is not for you, you can still choose love in that moment. You can choose kindness. You can choose to make that person feel good about themselves and put more love into the world. I think in the business world, of course, we all need a successful business. I'm not saying like just love because you have to be profitable, but when you can choose it, choose it. And I think that's kind of where the change can be made, when people consciously make a choice to choose that. So I do believe love wins, and that's what I would say.
Okay, awesome. Good. It's a long title, but it was a good one.
I know that was my explanation too.
So here you go. Now, we talked a little bit before we got on the show. We started this off, but I want to know what you do each morning to set yourself up for success. You got it. Hey, you've been listening to the Bald Truth.
Important, right? And I think
I'm the Peak Performance Group.
Baby steps.
We are the company that helps
remember one time I
people and
asked a health
organizations
coach, like, what can I
and
do? She's
maximize
like,
their
drink
potential.
warm lemon water.
If you're looking for a
Like,
way to
here's
grow
one
your
step, right? When
organization,
people
whether
feel
it's
like
through
life maybe
sales
is
or
too
strategic
overwhelming,
planning,
what's the one thing you
we
can
can
do?
help you do that.
So I try to
Our
drink
peak
water before I
performance
get out of
coaches,
bed,
we are
and
ready
then
to
I drink the
serve
warm
you.
lemon water, and then I
You can
drink the
reach us at
celery juice,
817-748-7425
and then I drink my coffee. So I think
or
that
on the World Wide
order
Web
is
at
important. And then every single day without fail, the
mypotentialplus.com.
first thing I do
We'll connect you with the right
out
coach
for
for
a
you.
walk. It's
Remember,
with I have a
folks,
dog
subscribe,
that is half
like.
husky. She
We're
needs a
available on
walk.
iTunes,
But I think
Spotify,
that's the
iHeart,
time when
YouTube
you can
video.
go
You're
out
watching it or
and
listening it somewhere,
be in
so
nature
subscribe and get every
start
single
with
episode.
that.
I'm
You don't
Coach
start
Rick,
hectic.
and that's
So
the Bald
that's
Truth.
simple, super simple, but it's what I do.
That was my lemon water, by the way.
Was it? It is really, it's like simple. And I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things. And when we can take when you feel stuck and you can say one thing, like when that health coach told me drink warm lemon water. All right, I can do that. I can do that. Who can't do that?
I just want to thank you for being on the show today, for spending some time with us today. Again, how can people get a hold of you?
My website's traciporterfield.com, and LinkedIn is a good one, Traci Porterfield.
All right, traciporterfield.com. You'll see it listed down below if you're on the video, or traciporterfield.com if you're listening in. Folks, it has been a blast. Traci, we got to have you back. This has been, I've learned more than I ever thought I would today. Had a good time. So
it was fun.
Thanks for being on. We appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for having me.
You've been listening to The Bald Truth with Coach Rick of the Peak Performance Group, the company that helps people and organizations reach their potential. If you're looking for a way to grow your organization, whether it's sales or strategic direction, the Peak Performance Group coaches can help you grow with their proven business acceleration process. Call them at 817-748-7425 or go to mypotentialplus.com and they'll connect you with the right coach for you. And remember to subscribe and like below. The Bold Truth Leadership Podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, and YouTube video. Hit like and subscribe to get every episode. Thanks for listening to the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast. And until next time, roll up your sleeves and get to work, and you can make things happen.
I'm Coach Rick, and that's the Bald Truth.